Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishna Eruvin, Perek Zayin, chapter 7, Mishna Beis. Okay. Kaisel sheben shtei chatzeros. You have a wall between two courtyards. Kavaya asara, it's 10 tfachim high. V'rachav arba, and it has a width of 4 tfachim. The top of the wall has a width of 4 tfachim. Ma'arvin shnayim, ve'ma'arvin echad. When they make, if they want to make an erev chatzeros, they have to make 2 erevs, meaning each one needs their own separate erev, and they cannot combine as one. Being that you've got a wall there, 10 tfachim high, that is a legitimately halachic separation. There's no windows or openings in between, okay, like we had in the previous mission when we had the window in the wall. And therefore, these 2 areas are completely separate from each other, and therefore constitute 2 separate chatzeros. If they constitute 2 separate chatzeros, they have to make 2 separate eruvei chatzeros. Now, the fact that the Mishnah mentioned that the top of the wall was wide 4 is really for the next part of the Mishnah. From the point of a wall separating between 2 courtyards, it could be paper thin. As long as it's 10 tefachim high, it would be able to separate the 2 and force them to have to make 2 separate chatzeros. But now the fact that our case is that it had 4 tefachim on top, that's relevant to the next part of the Mishnah. Hayu b'roshei peres. Let's say on top of the wall there were these fruits. On top of the wall there were some fruits.
Okay.
Sitting on top of the wall. Elu eilen mikan va'eichlin. These, meaning the members of one courtyard, can go up on the wall and eat. The elu eilen mikan va'eichlin, and these can go up from their side of the wall and eat. But only you have to make, but they cannot bring it down. Now, so you got this 4 tefachim wall, and you got these fruits on top of it. So, if you're tall enough, or you take a step stool, or, climb up on the wall, right? You could go ahead and take those fruits and eat them while you're up there. Now, when you have an area that's 10 tefachim high and 4 tefachim wide, that actually becomes its own domain. It becomes its own rishus hayachid. It, in essence, is now its own courtyard. Really. And when one courtyard made an erev and the other courtyard made an erev, the top of the wall is not included in any of their erevs. So really, what's happening here would seem to be that you're going from one courtyard, right, into the other courtyard, and we're saying, well, while you're up on top of the wall, right, you could take the fruits and eat them because you're, so to speak, in that domain. At the same time, though, that area is not part of the erev. So in essence, it would seem a bit problematic. How are you doing this, right? This area wasn't included in anybody's erev. How are you doing this? So the Bartanura and the I think it's a Gemara that actually says that the case here is real. When the Mishnah says you can't take it down, really you could take it down from one courtyard to the other. And why is that? That's because our Mishnah follows the following halacha, which we'll have later. And that is that, let's say there were we know that we have to make an erev chatzeros to be able to carry from the courtyard to the house, from the house to the courtyard, right? And so too, we've had carrying from one courtyard to another courtyard, right? If you want to carry from one to the other, you got to combine them if you can. Now the halacha is like this. Let's say there is something sitting in your courtyard when Shabbos began. Now don't forget, these courtyards are all halachically rishus hayachid. B'daraisa, there is, according to Torah law, there's nothing wrong carrying from one to the other. There's nothing wrong carrying from the house to the courtyard or vice versa. It's all rishus hayachid. But this was a rabbinic decree because it's similar to going from public to private. Okay. The halacha is that if, let's say, you have something sitting in your courtyard before Shabbos, you are allowed to carry it from one courtyard to another courtyard, even without an erev chatzeros. Erev chatzeros is talking about basically where something is starting inside your house, right? And you want to now carry it from outside your house to the courtyard, and let's say take that to another courtyard, that's a problem. Or so to go from the courtyard into the house. But to go from one courtyard to another courtyard when this object was sitting in the courtyard when Shabbos began is not a problem. And therefore, in our case, when we say that you can eat it on top, even though it's not included in the Erev, really means that you can eat it on top. You can take it to the bottom because it's courtyard to courtyard. And we're talking about where those objects were sitting there when Shabbos began. Mm-hmm. Those fruits were on top of the wall when Shabbos began. And therefore, they don't need an Erev Chatzeres. But when it says, the Mishnah says, but you can't take it down, that means you can't take it down to bring it into a house. Since it wasn't included in any of the Erevs, it can't go from the top of the wall into a house, but it can go from the top of the wall to the Chatzah below. That's what the Mishnah means when it says that so each one can go from each side and go to the top and eat, but they can't bring it down because they can't bring it down to take it into a house. Now, Nifretz HaKaisel ad Eser Amis. Now, let's say this wall has a breach in it. Part of it collapses. And the opening is up to 10 amas. It's not yet 10 cubits. Ma'arvin Shnayim. They can make 2 Erevs. The Imratz and Marvin Echad. If they want to, they can make 1 Erev altogether. Mipnei Shuka Pesach. Because any breach, any opening that is less than 10 amas wide is like a doorway. It's like an entranceway. An entranceway is a normal part of a wall. So the wall is still considered here. Even the open part of the wall is considered part of the wall to separate between the 2 areas. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we have a situation where we have a wall between 2 courtyards, but there's an opening like our window that we had previously. And in that case, you want to make 2 separate Erevs, you make 2 separate Erevs. You want to make 1 Erev, you can make 1 Erev. Because since that opening allows you to combine them if you want. Yoser Mikan. But if let's say that opening is more than 10, once it's more than up to 10 amas, once it's 10 amas and more, Ma'arvin Echad vein Ma'arvin Shnayim. Then the Erev has to be made. Then they can make 1 8. Then they make 1 Erev together. They cannot make 2. Once this opening is 10 amas wide, it is no more considered a entranceway. It's a breach, just a break. It's not part of the wall. So it's not part of the wall. I don't have this area separating between the 2 courtyards. That means the 2 courtyards are considered one. There's nothing separate. There's a whole area there that's not separating them. So they're considered one. If they're considered one and they want to carry there, they got to make 1 Erev. They can't make 2 Erevs because that's like taking 1 courtyard and making 2 Erevs in 1 courtyard. You can't do that. That defeats the purpose. Mm-hmm. So therefore, once the breach is 10 amas and more, so now I don't have a separation between the two courtyards. They are now automatically one, and therefore the Erev has to be made together. They all together have to make the 1 Erev in order to be able to carry from the houses to the courtyard or from the courtyard to the houses. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.